I will hurt you for this. A day will come when you think you're safe and happy, and your joy will turn to ashes in your mouth. And you will know the debt is paid.
If you know my channel, you'll know there's two things I like doing best. One is very long psychological character analyses, and the other is in-depth breakdowns of a scene. If you don't know my channel, then hello. The point is, Game of Thrones used to have some very, very good writing. Remember that? Remember when the world didn't all hate it? Well, let's look at that for a bit, let's break down one of my favourite scenes from when Game of Thrones was good. I say one of my favourite because I've actually made a list of my top 10, a secret list you're not allowed to see, and depending on how interested you all are, I'll go through each of those 10, breaking them down one at a time, but we'll see. For now, number 10 is a scene you might not expect to be one of my favourites. Tyrion versus Cersei, a showdown in which Cersei reveals she has captured Alayaya, believing her to be the woman Tyrion loves and trying to use her as a threat against him. It's a really strong scene. Not just the drama of this reveal, which we'll get to, but because the dynamic between these two siblings is fascinating. I talked about it in length in both my videos breaking down the psychology of Cersei and of Tyrion, and I think this scene is the best example we get of that dynamic on screen. All of their squabbling to be the most like Tywin, all of Cersei's disdain and view of Tyrion as this monstrous creature, and Tyrion both mocking that and playing up to it. Some of this is different to the book version of this scene, some of the changes are bad, a couple of them I think really elevate this scene in its own way, but let's actually get into it now, shall we? So first, the context. Cersei is mother to the new King Joffrey Baratheon, where Tyrion has been sent to the capital to serve as acting hands of the king and help the city prepare defences for when Stannis comes to invade. So, as part of these preparations, Tyrion has sent Cersei's daughter Myrcella away to the Kingdom of Dawn as a way to gain allies there. In the books, he's also taken Tommen, the younger brother of King Joffrey, and hidden him away in a secret location so he would survive should the battle go against them. And now, since Joffrey seems keen, Tyrion has agreed to let Joffrey fight in the battle when it comes. And the context is that Cersei doesn't like this, basically. I talked in my video on Cersei about how she sees her children as narcissistic extensions of herself rather than as independent beings. She can't bear to have them separated from her and responds to the idea of that with paranoia. In her eyes, Tyrion is trying to send away and get her children killed, all as a means to hurt her and strengthen his own power. So 2 episodes ago, when Tyrion did send Myrcella away, Cersei said this to him.
I want you to know what it's like to love someone. To truly love someone. Before I take her from you.
So tension hangs in the air, except the show misdirects you, because the next scene with Cersei and Tyrion in episode 7 isn't tense at all. They talk in Cersei's chambers about the threat of invasion, they discuss how Joffrey needs to start acting more kingly and how he's difficult to control.
If we can't control him...
Do you think I haven't tried? He doesn't listen to me.
And we see a moment of vulnerability from Cersei. She laments how monstrous Joffrey has turned out. Tyrion somewhat offers to comfort her. There's something here at least mildly close to affection, which is a really interesting scene to have written when it's not in the books. And I like it, and I think it all puts you off guard for their next encounter. The scene we're actually going to break down, the scene next episode where, again, they are in Cersei's chamber discussing the threat of invasion. Only this time, everything is reversed. Starting with the fact they're on opposite sides of the room now. In the first scene, Tyrion was on the side closest to the window, whereas Cersei was on the side nearest the door and the bed, which is a nice prop to reaffirm her vulnerability when she leans against it. But yeah, then in the next encounter it's reversed. Tyrion is on the side nearest the door and Cersei is nearer the window. In the first scene, they're entirely alone, where in the second scene Pod is here, and Samandum and whatever servants. Where the first scene opened with a close shot on Cersei lighting candles herself because she kicked her handmaidens out, the second scene opens with a close shot on Pod pouring drinks for them. They each have their own person in the room this time, sort of like backup, I guess, although Pod is non-threatening. Why he's here isn't entirely clear because Tyrion doesn't seem to feel in danger yet, although in the books, since he had slipped Cersei a mild poison previously, he was very careful not to eat anything she doesn't also eat, just in case. So, I don't know, maybe Pod is there to keep an eye on the wine. Doesn't matter. The point is, if we're set up to expect another scene of the two slowly growing closer despite their differences, finally finding headway in their relationship, if we're made to feel like that might be the journey of their character arc, instead we now get the complete reverse. I think the ominous presence of Samandum suggests something troubling may be coming, but let's go deeper into all of this, right after this bit.
A rider in the night from your sister.
Yep. Hello world! Have you heard of World Anvil? World? Sponsoring this video. World Anvil is an online tool for world building, character creation, campaign building and playing in all of these games, planning and writing your stories, and possibly some other stuff. I just use it for my novel, but it does other stuff too. World building can be difficult, you know. I used to use a folder for different Word documents which seemed simple enough to begin with until things get complex and you end up with a disorganized mess and you suddenly wish you had hyperlinks to different characters or mythologies in your notes. Or imagine this, say you want to design your own calendar for your world. You can pop in all the information, have the calendar generated, then build a timeline of historical events linked to that calendar or several calendars with all sorts of hyperlinks you might want sprawling to other articles, and then upload a map and link different events to locations on the map so you can easily see where and when everything happened. I find that so handy, and if the timeline affects how the map looks, such as a big city getting destroyed or whatever else, you can add altered maps to reflect those changes. And there are other tools as well. This is just the one I find most exciting, especially when it is all surprisingly easy to set up. In all my use of World Anvil so far, I haven't ever bothered to watch any of their tutorials on how to do stuff. I've just got on with it. I have a link in the description and as a pinned comment with the code TREE, which offers you 40% off all their subscriptions. There are different levels and you can even try out the free version initially, so give it a whirl, take it for a test drive. World Anvil.
Thank you, Podrick.
Odd little boy.
I have a certain sympathy for odd little boys.
You and Varys both.
Two things to note here. One is Cersei is going to bring up Varys a few times in this scene. Here it's just a throwaway comment, but there is a little subtext, I think, because all throughout this season, Tyrion has been growing close to Varys as someone he can trust, where in reality, Varys is keen to make everyone feel like they can trust him. Cersei wants to subtly undermine Tyrion's relationship with Varys as a means to say, you're not as powerful and as cunning as you think. You're not the only one Varys whispers secrets to. The other point is that Tyrion is sitting at the table, still savouring their meal, where Cersei is standing. Which is typical of Tyrion. We know he likes to control interactions through this air of casual, relaxed nonchalance. As though he's so in control he barely needs to be serious and can keep them off guard by peppering dialogue with lots of little attacks and threats hidden beneath these jokes and quips.
Excellent lamprey pie. Were you slaving away in the kitchen all day?
Remaining seated and wiping his mouth with his napkin adds to this casual effect. Whereas Cersei wants to get down to business, she's moved away from the food and is trying to dominate the space of the room. She turns away to change the subject.
I hear Joffrey plans on fighting.
An inspiration for the troops. The young king in his shining armor, fighting to defend the capital against the wicked old rebel.
Is the line so wonderfully thick with sarcasm? It's at this moment you realise Tyrion is playing up to an audience. That's of the guards, of Pod, and the servant. You realise then how the two of them not being alone has massively altered their dynamic here. Neither of them wants to come across as the loser in the eyes of the spectator.
He's only a boy.
Younger boys are off fighting his war.
He's not ready.
she says, now turning to face him. She's laying the groundwork here for a threat that's going to follow, the blackmail she's proposing. You better keep Joffrey safe or I'll hurt the one you love that I've captured. It's fun to watch her laying that groundwork, building up to the big reveal, struggling to keep the grin from her face at points.
What is he? 17? Remember Jaime at 17?
Better than you.
Which is the first major change, because in the books Joffrey is only 13. I think there's a lot of reasons they changed his age, but in terms of this scene it makes Cersei's argument less credible. He is growing up, and he is a king who needs to prove himself to his people. But that's not really what this is about. It's about Cersei thinking that Tyrion getting Joffrey to fight is a scheme of Tyrion's to get him killed. In all the chaos of battle, have someone suddenly slip a sword into his back, or something. And of course she's doubly worried because of a prophecy she was once given by Maggie the Frog, in which she will live to see all her children die. Also that she will be killed by a Valonqar, which means little brother, something she assumes means Tyrion. So all of that informs why she tends to see him as this scheming, monstrous being. Not that Tyrion knows that, and we don't know any of that yet in the story, but it's fun to see looking back.
Some men have a gift for this sort of thing. Some don't. His place is not on the battlefield.
It's not on the throne either. Sadly for all of us.
Again, we see Tyrion playing up to his audience and Pod's trying not to laugh. How Tyrion can use that audience to try and dictate control, speaking deliberately loudly so they all can hear. You can even see half a smile form in his face with his next quip.
Do you think I'm an idiot?
No, I'd say you possess above average intelligence.
You've shipped off my only daughter. And now you want to send my eldest son to the battlefield to die.
Anyway, Tyrion asserts that Joffrey will be safe in battle. He'll only be on the edges of it. He'll have a whole team of Kingsguard around him. A servant clears the table now as Cersei turns away once more.
Any dessert?
There is dessert, of course, in the manner of speaking. The secret reveal that this close shot with Cersei makes us privy to, but not yet Tyrion. The real point this whole encounter has been building to. We get a great view of her expression here as she struggles to hide her delight at what she's about to spring.
Do you know why Varys is so dangerous?
Because he has thousands of spies in his employ. Because he knows everything we do before we do it.
Because he doesn't have a cock.
Varys, again. Subtle implication that Tyrion isn't the only one who knows him. Plus, of course, the mention of a cock is to say that Tyrion's big weakness is his lust for women. Plus, as we know, Cersei has a lot of feelings about the fact she was born a woman, a warrior's heart trapped in a woman's body, to quote her thoughts in the book. Tyrion responds to the idea of Varys having no cock by saying,
Neither do you.
And in the books his internal thoughts even add, and don't you just hate that, Cersei? Anyway, this is the moment Cersei now rounds on Tyrion.
Perhaps I'm dangerous too. You, on the other hand, are as big a fool as every other man. That little worm between your legs does half your thinking.
It's not that little.
As ever, Tyrion trying to keep control through his quips. He's not going to be drawn out of his comfortable, fixed position, relaxing in that chair with wine. Cersei now laughs though, somewhat for show, waiting for Tyrion to get suspicious.
Why are you smiling?
Because I'm happy.
Why are you happy?
And now here we go. The camera follows her round perfectly in a seat to his side. Not directly opposite him, but sideways, because this attack catches him off guard, comes at him metaphorically from the side, as shown through this angle of Tyrion.
Because I have your little whore.
I thought you preferred blondes.
Peter Dinklage's acting from here on is a masterclass. A man panicking yet also doing his best not to let anything slip, trying to pry more information from Cersei without giving anything away himself.
Tell me, have you married this one yet? No? Good. Father will be so pleased.
She is of course very keen to get some japes in at Tyrion's expense. He's so often better at wits that she relishes the chance now. And Tyrion becomes slow in all his movements and expressions, as though he's trying to numb the panic building in him, trying to be measured. He uses the prop of the wine glass perfectly now, I think, going to take a sip as though to seem casual and unafraid, but he doesn't actually drink any.
Why do you care who I fuck?
Because a Lannister always pays her debts.
He then fiddles with it uncomfortably for a moment, trying to seem casual, but he can't now. He's becoming worried. He puts the glass down.
This is madness. Stannis will be here in days. You need me.
And now we see how bare the table has become without the food. It's just the two of them, split right down the middle with this candle. Then the shadow of Samandon lurking ominously behind. Of course the food is gone. All the faux friendliness is gone. They are down to cold business. And after a few more threats we get...
You've forgotten the most important thing about halls.
Well, you're the expert. Tell me.
You don't buy them. You only rent them.
Trying to suggest he doesn't care about who he might still think is Shae that they're talking about. Cersei has made a mention of a Lannister lion necklace at this point, which might have given away this isn't Shae, this is Roslyn they're talking about. Cersei has captured the wrong woman. Either way, he needs to keep up the act.
You're usually a better liar, baby brother.
Tyrion is so still now, so slow and unanimated. After the threats are made clear, he asks,
And how do I know you haven't killed her already?
So, yep, Samandon goes to bring Roslyn in, and you see the panic in Tyrion awaiting what he might be about to see, and when he does see Roslyn, his face is a mixture of guilt that this woman has suffered on his account, and the pretense he's trying to play that this is his actual love. Which is where we differ from the books. We have to, because you can't get characters' internal thoughts as easily in TV. In the books though, Tyrion has to stop himself from laughing, both out of relief and at the pleasure of wiping Cersei's mistake in her face. She's got the wrong woman. He would love to laugh at her right now, but obviously he can't because it would give the game away. You can't show that as easily on TV, but it does change this scene because in the books Tyrion then comes out of this exchange winning. He reverses the threat, just as you threaten to harm Alayaya. If Joffrey or Tommen get harmed, I know where Tommen is being hidden. If you hurt her, I can do the same to Tommen. Cersei had not expected that. You wouldn't dare. Tyrion made himself smile, slow and cold. Green and black, his eyes laughed at her. Dare? I'll do it myself. Cersei loses her cool and Tyrion comes out on top there, feeling triumphant as he leaves, and on the one hand that's good because it reinforces how Tyrion in the books is much less the good, moral person he's painted as being in the show. On the other hand, I like how in the show here Cersei comes out on top in this exchange, but before we get to that, Tyrion goes to Roslyn and pretends she's his love.
I promise I will free you.
Don't forget me.
Never.
Which is funny because just 1 second ago we had Cersei calling Tyrion out as a bad liar, where now the acting is so blatantly wooden between these two. It's so obviously a lie, and Cersei does not see that. Why? Because she's so keen to relish having the upper hand, so keen to enjoy the pleasure of hurting Tyrion that she lets that fact blind her. Roslyn is led away, the dark music comes in as Tyrion makes his slow, angry turn towards Cersei now.
I will hurt you for this. A day will come when you think you're safe and happy, and your joy will turn to ashes in your mouth.
He has to say something like this. Cersei needs to think that he is terribly angered by what she's done, otherwise she might doubt that Roslyn is indeed his love. More so, his internal thoughts in the books point out he's trying to emulate Tywin here, not just showing anger but genuinely wanting to threaten her and dominate. And that's important to remember. Yes, Cersei got the wrong woman, but it still hurts Tyrion because it tells him what she would do had Cersei got the right woman. The music is a great touch to reinforce this threat, which is important because it's a threat that will come back round later and will haunt Cersei. Her final lines in this scene are the same as in the book.
Get out.
But where she says it angered from a losing position in the books, here she says it from a place of triumph. The mix of pure disdain for Tyrion and the joy of hurting him etched on her face. The smile here is perfect. And then Tyrion rushes away to find Shae in an absolute panic about her, which I think is really good touch to reinforce that. Even though Cersei got the wrong woman, he comes out of this really rattled. I like that change from the books. It elevates the threat and reinforces his desperate feelings for Shae, but I've already talked a ton. So I'll conclude with this. This scene is really effective to show how just the way two actors position themselves around a table can enhance the drama. It's also to say how subtext is always what really makes dialogue deliver that extra punch, and as I often say in my scene analyses videos, the power of a scene is not normally just about the scene itself. There's always the context that builds up to that scene, Any showdown in any story needs earlier setup in order for it to fully land when you get there. So those are 3 simple points. After going through the whole thing. I assume there's other stuff. Let me know what I've missed, let me know what I got wrong, like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want more, maybe even support me on Patreon. But yeah, a big thank you to World Anvil, and otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as ever, a special thank you goes to Janice McMahon, Blue Core, Treat Ukaba, Michael Gallagher, InSquares, Flying Spider, Samara Salsi, Joshua C. Follier and Chad Bramwell. Thank you.